traveling a bit back in time, how we actually started. One of our founders is originally from the Netherlands and came from a family business of baby goods. He then started to think, okay, I'm so deep in the circular economy and I really want to change the way we consume these products. What can I do on a business end? So he actually started to buy 50 baby strollers and try renting them out. And he saw how many tools he needs and how much he struggled to actually look at the complexity of the operations, as we talked about before, and also how do I connect the dots between the data, which was the situation when he started to build something himself. And that was actually the founding moment of Circuly.
This podcast is powered by P2S Management Consulting, the team helping manufacturers shift from one-time product sales to recurring revenue models. At P2S, we partner with industrial companies to design and launch product as a service, subscription, and pay-per-use offers, tackling pricing, financing, legal structuring, sales enablement, and everything else needed to make recurring models work. Welcome to the Products to Services podcast, where we explore how manufacturers are shifting to recurring revenue and product as a service and subscription-based business models. I'm Florian André, the founder of P2S Management Consulting, and I'll be your host today. Today, we're tackling a challenge that's easy to underestimate, but critical to get right, which is subscription management. So the management of subscription business models. And so for many manufacturers launching subscription or product as a service models, the real obstacle isn't necessarily demand, but it's more the operational complexity of managing subscriptions at scale. And so selling the vision of subscriptions is one thing. However, handling contracts, returns, invoicing, renewals, customer data across thousands of active subscribers that pause, that cancel, that downgrade, that upgrade, this is another complex thing, right? And so this is where many subscription initiatives stumble. So not necessarily on strategy, but more on the execution itself. And so this is where today's guest comes in, Sophia Heinig, which is the chief of staff at Circuly based in Germany. And it's a company purpose-built to help manufacturers and other providers to enter the circular economy and to turn their physical products into scalable, profitable subscriptions. I hope I got it more or less right. But we'll explore how Circuly helps clients speed up the time to launch, how it helps them reduce the operational headaches and boost customer lifetime value with real world metrics also to prove it. So Sophia, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. Thank you.
Hi, Florian. Thanks for the introduction and also for having us.
Perfect. Well, let's get started. Perhaps to set the scene a little bit, do you want to tell us a bit what Circuly does, who you are, what you do at Circuly, and how you guys are helping companies in this space?
Yes. So you did touch a lot of points already in your intro. So I always like to say Circuly is enabling circular business models. We do this already across 17 countries, and it seems very high level. But how we do is actually that we have a software solution that addresses the complete subscription management, really from the beginning to the end, if there is an end, because we obviously want to circle it. So that physical products can be, subscribed to as easy as we know it from buying in, especially in the e-commerce. We know music, Netflix, these are all services that we subscribe to, but these are digital products. And we're actually looking at facilitating organizations, companies, manufacturers to really offer their physical products. So an example is a baby stroller, an e-bike, or even a medical good, to offer this as a service. We focus on a smooth customer journey, well-structured and scalable processes, and that's very high level of what Circuly does. I believe we're going to go a lot deeper throughout the podcast. And to me, as you said, I'm Sophia, Chief of Staff. I always like to add a little bit that this is a role that creates connection within the company, but also external, as the title may not be super clear to everyone. But this is how I see my role within the company. And yes, that a little bit about us and about myself.
Yes, perfect. Great to have you here. And I mean, you have been with the company for quite a while. So since the almost the very beginning and kind of launching and scaling the company to where it is today. So that's great to see. Great to have you here. Which brings me a bit. I'm wondering, why do you think so many companies underestimate the complexity of running product subscriptions compared to software subscriptions, and perhaps also, in your opinion, what is the cost of getting it wrong?
Yes, very good point. So with Circuly, we operate in the market for about 5 years and have different industries. Some industries are certainly more mature in the thinking of accessing a product as a service, whereas in other industries, the linear purchase flow is a lot more present. So there's a big difference in the industries and also in the end consumer adoption. I think a lot of companies underestimate it because it's not just, oh, we do this on the side, but it's actually a new way of doing business. It's a different way of strategizing. And these are all things that as soon as you look into them and open it up, the topic, it becomes a lot more complex, right? So I always like to compare it with, it's not you're using either one software to communicate or the other, but it's really about how do you communicate. So with us, it's not only about educating the end consumer, how do I actually use products? Do I want to own it? Do I need to own it? Can I just access it? Then it comes to the amount of touch points. So you mentioned subscription management entails a lot, from starting with communicating to the customer, recurring payments, tracking the asset. Where is it? With whom? When does it come back? How many repair costs do I have to add to that product over their life cycles, depending on how many customers they have, etc. But it also means, okay, what kind of products can I actually offer as a subscription, and what are really suitable, not only from the product itself, but also from the bottom line of it. That's on, let's say, the operative part, but it also comes to the perspective of how do I measure success? What kind of KPIs do I look at it? Because our current KPIs are mainly built for linear systems. In that sense, it's not that important how oft a product is used by a different customer, or is the product, or let's say the product or the business model, successful after a year or after 3 years. So these are all things that come in place. I think as soon as they start, the complexity adds in, and then people be like, okay, I need to look at everything now. And then they dive a little bit too deep, which then costs time. So you miss the chance of really entering the market early and also gaining all that market potential. We see a lot of companies that jumped in early, that got the early adopters and win the customer with the smooth customer service. So these are, let's say, a few points, very different, yet all play a key role in making an as a service model successful.
That's yeah, there's a lot of different things to take into account, right? Whether it's billing, invoicing, contract management, pricing, complex pricing schemes with different tiers and things like that. Can you quantify on your side the impact you have on your clients, by perhaps reducing certain number of manual tasks that they did in an probably some lost spreadsheet somewhere on an Excel? Do you have some numbers there as well?
So it's always a bit tricky because per industry, per product, often different things are tracked. We have companies that have had a subscription business before us, before utilizing Circuly, but we also have companies that start from scratch with us. So we don't always have the comparison of how it was before and after. A few KPIs that companies are looking at is, for example, if they have had a business model before, a subscription business model, that the subscription duration has extended, because it's easier to, for example, change a product. It's easier to upgrade or downgrade or to swap it if there are issues with the product. So that's what I mentioned at the beginning, the smooth customer service and journey across the whole lifetime. So not only, okay, I want to rent it, but also what happens if I have any questions throughout my subscription. Another information that we got, for example, from an electronic goods manufacturer and subscription provider, is that over a year, so 12 months, they managed to generate 100K in revenue after they actually brought Circuly on board and brought all their processes managed by Circuly. They managed to do this within 1 month. So
Wow.
that's quite the increase there. Another one that we can look at is how much manpower does it need to operate a business, and with what size of team can you actually scale this? So we see many companies that can start as little as 1 or 2 people really operating thousands of subscriptions, right? So that's a focus in the sense of how much do I want to grow? Is this something I do want to keep little? Then you can stay with manual tasks. But the more you grow, do you always need to add people to the team in order to manage it, or can you maintain these tiers at a longer rate?
Yeah, no, that's very, very interesting. Also, the people aspect that you mentioned. Out of curiosity, the companies running those subscriptions. So, what do the teams look like most? Is it a lot of people taking care of kind of customer support and just answering emails and phone calls because the payment card didn't go through, or is it handling returns, or is there a person and actively being on the, let's say, the Circuly platform on the back end and doing all the back end operations? Let's say, what does a typical team of a subscription business look like?
Yes. I believe my answer is a little bit two-sided. So on the one side, for our audience to understand, Circuly contains 4 modules. 2 of them which are customer facing, 1 which is for the retailers, and 1 which is really for the company or the manufacturer operating that business. This is our Circuly hub. This is where all the information from the different tools as well as from the different modules are flowing together. That means anything that you want to do in the sense of subscription management, you can do from the hub. That, let's say, as an infrastructure overview. You asked, okay, how much customer service is it? How many requests do I need to do? We believe that it should as much scalability be possible. Therefore, especially the customer-facing modules enable the end user to do a lot by themselves. I believe you and we are used to, whenever you shop something online, you have a profile, you can change your payment method, you can change your details. All of that is exactly the same with our module. So many things that come to a customer service maybe can be done by the end user themselves because they have the functionalities, they have the information present. Another thing that's relevant, obviously, is that depending on the complexity of your process, you can automate a lot of things. So it's not that everyone needs to go in and say, we got a new order. I need to manually assign a product. I need to manually take care of the logistics. You can do all of this manually at the beginning, obviously, when you want to understand the rhythm. Over time, you know your structure, you know your setup. You can automate a lot of these things. So as little as 2 people can easily manage the majority of subscriptions, obviously, depending on how the setup is. If you have a logistics partners, there may be a different team. If you have someone that is taking care of the marketing, that could be an individual people. But it could also be that you have the right partners at hand. So we have companies as little as self-entrepreneurs running a business on this, up to teams of 25 people that if you really look at the bigger scale companies that also look at, okay, how do I market it? How do I really also look strategically at it? How do I think about what kind of new products can I add? What kind of improvement points do I have from logistics really to the products themselves?
That's quite clear, quite cool. So that even a one man show, one woman show can kind of run a business, a subscription business on its own because of all this automation. That's quite impressive. I mean, I think in the same topic there lies a bit the key question we hear a lot also from our clients that want to launch subscription models. And when we talk about tech, they're always, oh, but what about the integrations? What about the integrations? I think it's quite easy when you work with a startup that is, let's say, a blank sheet of paper. But if you work with an established company that has been existing for decades, well, what type of question do you get from them in terms of integrations, and how do you answer them? Because I guess they have a lot of ERP systems, CRM systems that are already in place, and they don't necessarily want to change their complete tech stack now.
Yeah. Traveling a bit back in time, how we actually started. One of our founders is originally from the Netherlands and came from a family business of baby goods. He then started to think, okay, I'm so deep in the circular economy and I really want to change the way we consume these products. What can I do on a business end? So he actually started to buy 50 baby strollers and try renting them out. And he saw how many tools he needs and how much he struggled to actually look at the complexity of the operations, as we talked about before, and also how do I connect the dots between the data, which was the situation when he started to build something himself. And that was actually the founding moment of Circuly, because then we realized, okay, it's not him that is needed to rent out these baby strollers, but it's to find a digital and create a digital infrastructure for these companies that want to operate such a business model. That means we've created our software as a service model in that sense that we can integrate nearly everything. We do have a lot of native integrations, obviously, to the online shops and web shop provider, the payment service provider, but also beginning at credit checks and ending at the logistics and ERP partners, because we believe it should be as easy as possible to start this kind of business model, because we don't have unlimited time to think about what kind of circular business models we can create. So lowering the entry barrier to this business model was for us quite important.
Okay, that's a nice story to hear. I hadn't heard that before. I didn't know Circuly had started in that way, so that's definitely cool. I'd love to zoom in also on your work with manufacturing clients, because their needs and operations often look a bit different, let's say, from other industries, perhaps specifically also from B2C and D2C industries. Are there unique subscription challenges, subscription lifecycle challenges that manufacturers face compared to D2C, direct to consumer companies?
So for me, this has two levels. If I look at as a service model in the B2B realm or in the B2C, so business to business or business to consumer, that obviously has different challenges because the amount of product, the durations, as well as the service that comes with it often differs. If I take an example of an iPhone, a private person probably rents one iPhone, whereas a company rents 100 for their employees. So obviously it needs a different structure and it needs different processes. We believe that with the flexibility of our software, the customer has a lot of room to cater both, because it depends on how that is set up. An additional difference that maybe you didn't quite intend with your question is that we have manufacturer that offer it as a direct-to-consumer subscription, but we also have retailer that do not produce the product themselves, offering the product to the end consumer. And I think that's also quite interesting because the manufacturer has a lot more scope over the product from the supply chain at the beginning, but also at disassembling it at the end of the life cycle again, whereas a retailer obviously needs to do a little bit more research on how circular are these products actually that I want to offer as a service, because they don't develop the products themselves. So I think these are the biggest differentiations that I see there. For manufacturers, I think this is a great opportunity to actually look at not only creating a product that is circular by design, but also offering it in such a service model, because only then the circularity that you plan in the design comes into practice, because at the end of the life cycle, you as a manufacturer will get back the material, will be able to learn from the material, but also reuse it, and therefore save on the production end, and learn a lot about the usage of the material and the product.
Yeah, okay, that's very interesting. And I really liked your point also on the distinction between manufacturers and distributors slash retailers. Which brings me to a point that we see also with clients that want to launch as a service and subscription models. You probably need some sort of service capability, and some manufacturers rely on channel partners, retailers, distributors for servicing their products. And so what we see is that manufacturers sometimes get bypassed by certain retailers because they are in a better position to offer subscription to end customers rather than the manufacturers themselves. So I think it's a quite interesting also play to see, because the typical competitor of a manufacturer is not necessarily another manufacturer in the subscription space, but it could be that their own distributors or retailers are becoming competitors in the subscription space, because the service capability, being able to service your own products, is so important, right? To make them last over time. Which brings me a bit to a question of, who is it usually, the team member, the champion, the subscription champion? Who is it inside an organization, inside a company, that typically drives these type of projects?
Yes, so a very interesting part, especially as you said, okay, direct to consumer, the retailer, the distributor in between. We actually do have quite some collaborations where the manufacturer and the retailer work together with us in a little bit of a triangle situation, so that there is a good flow of information, and the manufacturer, for example, doesn't want to maintain the business model themselves, so they work with the retailer, but then also, for example, take care of the refurbishment, so they can get a bit of both. We also have manufacturer doing it directly themselves, as I mentioned before, because then they have a lot more a handle on the product design, the logistics, the packaging, etc. If we look at who is driving this business model, again, very differentiation between smaller companies, but also between industries. We often or see more C-levels and really decision makers driving it, in that sense, because it's a strategic decision. It's not, do I use software A or B, but is it, do I offer my product as a subscription, yes or no? Once that is set, the project team doesn't always need to be the same. Sometimes it also is like a root engagement from a company where someone in the innovation area, someone in the e-commerce part says like, okay, we really need to innovate here because our business model is not future-proof, or we see our target group requires a different kind how they want to access the product. So it can come from different areas, but I think important is that in a strategy of a company, there is a clear direction in, we do want to offer our product as a service, which is often the challenge, because it's a new business model, as I said at the beginning, which comes with a different kind of tracking, and maybe a bit of a longer term dedication to it, because only then you see really the growth of what that business model can do.
Yeah, that's I mean, you mentioned very, very interesting points, and as you said, like you don't reap the benefits of those within the first 6 months probably, and kind of there will be a payback time which is a bit longer than kind of I give you my product and you give me a bag of cash and we shake hands and then we say goodbye. So it is definitely over time. But you also mentioned KPIs. So what are indicators that to measure success? I guess that in the subscription economy, the KPIs, they differ a bit from, let's say, the linear economy related to sustainability, related to recurring revenue. Can you share a bunch of the KPIs that typically manufacturers look at?
Yes, so we stay true to ourselves. We do enable organizations to offer as a service models, and we ourselves as a service, as a software as a service model, have a similar structure there. Typical KPIs in this area obviously are active subscription, recurring revenue per month or per year, but also how many new orders do I get in, how many new customers, what are the subscription duration. These are the stats that the majority of companies look at directly from the beginning. KPIs that are becoming more interesting over time is obviously how often is a product rented out? What is the average rental cycle? So how often does it rotate? What are my repair costs for that specific product? Do customers, let's say, increase their subscriptions? So the adoption rate, okay, is one subscriber keeping one subscription, or do they stock up and say, because it worked so well with the baby stroller, I might also go for the e-bike on a subscription, or they tell a friend about it and then they have a refer friend code. So these are all kinds of things that come a little bit more over time. It's quite exciting to see that the more companies have started, and we have quite a few companies with us that have this data more and more, because if you rent a product for a year, you need 2, 3, 4 years before you can actually create like a benchmark of it, especially if companies start with, let's say, 2 products to really test the market and learn with the customer, and then currently are like, I don't know, 15 to 150 products that they offer as a subscription. So that's something that's really, really nice to see. Success factors, obviously, we have seen customers that really tracked at it. How long is a product in stock? How long is it rented out? What's the average amount of products that's rented out, right? So because you don't want to have them in stock, you want to have them out, not sold, but knowing where they are, or having a minimum rental cycle for a product set, that you want to achieve that. So these are KPIs that customers look at, and that, we're more and more able to benchmark per industry, which obviously becomes more interesting.
That's there were what 20, 30 KPIs metrics that you that you just mentioned.
Well, I think
But
data-driven, we're in a data-driven environment, right? And it's super interesting to see this.
that must be definitely some interesting dashboards behind it, and which are also quite different from how it usually looks. But that's cool to hear. I guess also on the downside, if we look a bit about, let's say, pitfalls, challenges, and trends within those pitfalls, um, what are the typical mistakes companies do when they're launching as a service or subscription-based models?
Mm. Yes, so I think for the companies that can differ depending also on how the company is operating, right? So this is impacted by culture, by location. As I said, we operate across 17 countries. We do recognize that different located companies do operate different. So not only based on company culture, but also on country culture. I think many organizations, once they understand, okay, these are the processes that I need to look at, and these are the flows that could happen, some tend to overcomplicate the beginning of it. So it holds companies sometimes back to get started because they want to have everything prepared. I mean, I'm from Germany, so I know that fear of, okay, we need to have looked at everything at every edge case, and we need to have a solution for everything before we even have started. And that's a danger because it's a business model where you learn a lot also with your kind of customers, with your target group. The target group for someone who's renting a medical chair is completely different than it is for someone who is a baby stroller or an e-bike. So you need to also find, as a company in your industry, your target group. It could be very different, the target group that is renting your product or subscribing to your products than it is that has previously bought your products. And you can do a lot of analysis, a lot of research, but you will learn the most when you start, let's say, with 1 or 2 products, really pilot, get into it, see what kind of use cases come up. I think the earlier you're on the market, the more you can gain the traction and really learn from these use cases. Another thing that we see, because it's still a new market and people are sometimes a bit hesitant, is there a target group? How does this work? There are companies that tend to hide that a little bit from their regular brand because they don't want to, let's say, cannibalize their linear sales market. So they say, oh, we hide it a little bit and we'll see what comes in, and expect, yeah, people will find it and then they will subscribe it and it will work by itself. That doesn't really work. As I mentioned, different target group, different market. It does require a preparation for launch. It does require marketing. We see the companies that really do have a campaign connected to it and think about before launch already, okay, what kind of target group do I want to address? Who and how can I really make this start and visible? They fly off so much quicker than anyone who says we'll hide it a little bit and see what comes in, and then are surprised that no one knows about them offering their product as a service so that they cannot subscribe. Another one, maybe the last one and the third one, can be a bit more internal. We talked about the flow of manufacturers, retailers, and then end consumer. You need to incentivize the company and the people that are with the end consumer to bring this model forward. Classic example, if you look at your retailers, they earn a commission based on the sales they are making. Why should they offer and promote subscriptions if the sales price at that moment is a lot lower than the linear complete sales, because they get like the recurring revenue over the course of the subscription? So these are things that need to be kept in mind and also thought about. How can we build this in our company with our customers so that there is an incentive for everyone in the company that is connected to this business model to really bring this forward, advocate for it, and also, yes, then therefore bring it to the end consumer, because otherwise it can fail within the company, not because it's poorly done or it's not the right target group, but because the company sticks more to their traditional linear sales model that they are used to.
That's I really like the points that you mentioned, and I think you depicted it very well, because it's really this duality of, on one side, let's go to the market as quickly as possible. On the other side, there's so many things that we need to get right, whether it's the compensation schemes of salespeople, the exact financing, or the exact clause in the contract to limit our risk exposure. So I think it's very, very interesting that companies go to market quickly, having done the good due diligence, let's say, and being a little bit on the safe side, let's say. But it's okay to get it wrong also at the beginning, and probably this is where the biggest learning are going to come from. But yeah, there's just so many things, right, that you need to consider when you launch a subscription model, the compensation model, the contracts, the financing, the pricing, the IT infrastructure, the integrations, the how do you sell it to customers? I mean, there's a bunch of things, right?
I don't want to scare the listeners on this, because I think it sounds a lot when you hear it now bundled up. But these are all things that you can look at step by step. And when you start with like one or two products, it's something that you can better handle than if you start with like a lot of products. And then it's not even that overwhelming, let's say, as we, especially at the beginning, do the planning together and set up the things. And within Circuly, there is a lot of flexibility, right? So if you recognize, okay, this needs adaptation, this needs changing, you have as a user of Circuly a lot of room to adapt it also quickly yourself.
Yeah, there's definitely all the flexibility, and kind of all the changes can be done to a great extent yourself. So this is definitely a very good tool to kind of go to the market quickly, but also to scale it properly afterwards. I think this is important nowadays, is because perhaps you could have tools that are simple at first, but then kind of don't scale and don't have the little let's say the modularity afterwards that is required in terms of pricing. I mean, subscription pricing can be so complex with different tiers, with hybrid models, with upfront payments, with deposits, with et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's cool also that you guys are offering simplicity but flexibility on simultaneously in the end. Great. Well, before we wrap up, I would like to talk perhaps also a bit about a few numbers behind it. And if you can share, of course, anonymized or not anonymized numbers, but I'd be very interested in especially some numbers of your clients, so companies that are using Circuly as a tool to offer subscriptions. Can you share any numbers about the success cases there?
Yeah, you put it quite right there. There is obviously protecting the data of our clients. What I can say, obviously, is that we see across all of our customers a double-digit growth year over year in their revenue. So 25% has been the recent stats on that, which is quite fair in the current time and market, especially in markets that often stagnate, or if you look at an example from let's say, back in the days when Miele had really struggled because their products were too good because they lasted too long, is a subscription model one way to go about it. Another thing that's probably you might be curious about is obviously our growth. We have been growing on an average of 4.5K monthly recurring revenue in 2024, which is very much connected to the growth of our customers, because yes, with them growing, we grow. We handle at the moment about 80K active subscriptions, so really just active ones this month, which leads to over 2.5 million revenue that we process every month as well, tendency growing. So a few stats, a bit of a mixed bundle. I'm very much looking forward to being able to share soon a bit more on the benchmarking. But as I said, this is still data that we are currently bundling and really putting into perspective and cleaning up, so that this can be shared. Based on the industry, obviously, then it's a bit more specific. But I think the as a service model, the growth indication shows this quite clearly, that it works.
That's cool to hear. I mean, 80,000 subscribers on a monthly, active subscriptions on a monthly basis. This is impressive. Sounds like a big part of Europe and other countries are going to be switching to subscriptions soon. But I mean, it makes just so much sense, huh? Whether it's kids, bike, consumer electronics, home appliances. I mean, how many times do we buy stuff that doesn't work, and kind of if we would have subscribed to it could have perhaps lasted longer. But no, Sophia, thank you. This has been such a value-packed conversation, I would say. Sophia, where can people get in touch with you to learn about your work and just talk to you? How should they reach out?
Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. I think that's the most frequent channel I'm active in, or check out our website. We have our contact details there as well. And yeah, very excited, especially for the manufacturing round to see, okay, how can we create more products that are really circular by design?
Perfect, Sophia. So Sophia Heinig on LinkedIn. I'm sure you'll find her. But we'll make sure to put the link in the description of the episode as well. So again, Sophia, thank you for joining us today and sharing a behind the scenes look at what it really takes to operationalize and manage a product as a service or a subscription business model from the launch, but also at scale. So has been very interesting. So for our listeners, if you're considering launching a product as a service, a subscription model, or if you've hit the wall at scaling it, take note. Tech is not only about automation, it's about control, visibility, freeing up your team's focus so that they can focus on growth, which is the most important thing, probably. And you can find more about Circuly on, I think, circuly.io, if I'm not mistaken, and reach out to Sophia directly. And so if this episode gave you new ideas, insights, questions, thoughts, please feel free to drop us a message, drop me a message also at P2S. So thank you also from my side. I'm Florian from P2S. Thanks for tuning in to the Products to Services podcast. And until next time, thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.